Viewers, India landed a hammer blow on Pakistan during Operation Sindoor. Multiple terror dens were destroyed in the heart of Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Pakistani air bases were hit and multiple terror camps were blown up. Pakistan has been constantly peddling a fake narrative because it claims that their Operation Bunyan was a success. But it was Pakistan and their DGMO who were then pleading for a ceasefire. Even back home, many have been raising questions on Operation Sindoor. So let's take a step back and look away from the rhetoric and actually look at the facts here. To decode what really happened, we are being joined by Christopher Clary, someone who has closely tracked conflict for years. He's an associate professor of political science at the University at Albany and also a non-resident fellow at the Stimson Center South Asia program. He's also the author of The Difficult Politics of Peace, Rivalry in Modern South Asia. Let's take it to him to get a better sense of what really transpired during Operation Sindoor. Professor Clary, thank you very much for joining us here on Times Now. One reason that the Indian strikes garnered attention, as you've mentioned, is the fact that India struck so deep into Pakistani Punjab at terrorist facilities in Muridke and Bahawalpur, first after the 1971 war. What kind of signaling do you think this has been?
In the aftermath of the clash, the Prime Minister and other cabinet members on the Indian side have tried to argue that this is a new normal, that when India suffers serious terrorist or militant violence, that it will respond militarily. And one of the signals that it gave in this crisis was that it struck at two sites that were in the interior of Punjab, that were in the heartland of Pakistan. India also struck, of course, 7 sites closer to Kashmir, either in Punjab or in Pakistan-administered Kashmir. But the aim here is that a future Pakistani military leader thinking about support for terrorist or militant groups would question that, or if they are not involved in those decisions, that a future Pakistani military intelligence or law enforcement official will put pressure on groups that are considering violence in India not to do so, lest a serious military crisis begin again. And by striking into Punjab, the government of India is signaling that there are no safe havens, that the threat of terrorism is something for which India feels so seriously, so strongly, that it's willing to take risks by hitting in the heartland of Pakistan.
Okay. Is there any doubt now that what happened in Pahalgam was a result of Pakistan-sponsored terror? Pakistan's long track record of supporting militant and terrorist groups is something that you have also mentioned in your paper.
This group that most observers, including the government of India, blame for the April 22nd attack, the Resistance Front, is a newer group that, frankly, international observers know less about. The government has argued, government of India has argued that they are tied closely to the Lashkar-e-Taiba, the LET, a group that we do know more about and has clearer historic ties to the Pakistani state. It's not clear to me all international observers perceive the linkage as tightly as the government of India has argued. But what international observers do tend to agree with the government of India on is that these groups, LET, Jaish-e-Mohammed, have been able to operate for too long from Pakistani soil. And even if the specifics for any one attack are not pinned down, this broader pattern of historic support is worrisome to outside observers and is part of the reason I think most foreign governments did not worry too much about the attribution for this specific attack going back to leadership on the Pakistan military or intelligence agencies.
But now, shouldn't the world come together and back India in isolating Pakistan? After all, India has started a diplomatic mission to win this war of narratives as well, which is as important as winning, on the battlefield.
The danger, of course, with using military force is that many outside actors will seek to alleviate the crisis, to get away from the danger of war or, God forbid, a nuclear exchange. And so in the days of the clash, I think you saw observers, not just in Washington, but also in Paris and London and Moscow even, encourage restraint because of those fears. That is always the risk of turning a provocation like that which occurred in Kashmir on April 22nd into the cause of military hostilities, that it will transmogrify the conflict into something that makes the politics better for Pakistan on the international arena because it brings Pakistan up to India's level. Over the medium term, I do think it is reasonable for New Delhi to expect there to be sustained pressure on Pakistan to make sure these groups who have caused considerable difficulty and bloodshed and heartache over recent decades, these groups are reined in and ideally dispersed and not allowed to operate so freely from Pakistani soil.
All right, Professor Christopher Clary, thank you very much for speaking with us here on Times Now and sharing with us your perspective. And with this, we will slip into another very, very short break. More news and updates on the other side. Stay with us.